My hands shook as I straightened the stack of invoices, pretending I was busy. Across the open-plan office, Stefan's laughter boomed. I stiffened, hoping he'd run out of targets before he reached my desk. The printers hummed and phones rang, but it all faded into background buzz. Overhead, synthetic lights rendered everything a little flatter, a little grayer. Stefan turned. Soon, the whole floor would be watching again. He sauntered over, folder in hand. "Did you send the files for the wastewater project?" His eyes flicked to the battered old camera nestled in my bag by my chair, barely hidden. "Not yet. I had trouble with the server lag," I said, voice tight. Of course he didn't care about the server. Stefan smirked at the camera. "You still chasing that silly hobby? Pretending to be Cartier-Bresson? Berlin's next artist? Stuck faxing invoices? Ja?" Somebody snickered behind a cubicle partition. I kept my head down. Every muscle in me wanted to disappear into my chair, to vanish into the city. Instead, I gripped the edge of my desk and forced a smile. "I like taking pictures," I said, trying not to show how much he'd gotten under my skin. "Likes it. My niece, she's 6, likes coloring books." More laughter. I felt my cheeks burn. "Maybe you can do wedding photos for the office Christmas party." I pressed my lips tight, forced myself to ignore the insistent stinging in my chest. My supervisor, Frau Becker, called Stefan over. As he strolled away, he tossed, "Don't forget those files, camera boy. No time for daydreamers here." "No time for daydreamers." I said nothing. That night, I altered the same spreadsheet for an hour, going through the motions with glazed eyes. All the while, the camera burned in my bag, a silent accusation, an emblem of all I couldn't say aloud. When it was finally dark, I left the office, stepping into the neon-washed street, Berlin's winter wind clapping me full in the face. Home was a studio flat off Hassenheide. 1 room, kitchen, bathroom, and the walls were plastered with my failed shots, the ones nobody saw. All the portraits of strangers, fragments of graffiti half washed from the city's skin, dogs running by the Landwehr Canal, wrinkled men on U-Bahn benches, kids doing handstands in Görlitzer Park. Each photograph was a question I couldn't answer. My mother called sometimes. Her voice, when gentle or worried, chafed more than Stefan's barbs. "You should be grateful, Paul," she'd say. "That job was good enough for your father. Art is for people with money or madness." I would mumble assurances and say I had work to do. I was 32, alone, chafed raw by humiliation, watching dreams crash on the shoals of ridicule. But at night, when everyone else's voices faded, I'd slip the camera from my bag and go wandering the quiet halves of Berlin that belonged only to the insomniacs, the lonely, and the ones like me who wouldn't give up. Most nights, I watched the arc of headlights slide over wet pavement and lost myself in click after click, chasing a moment that would prove I was meant for something more. If a turning point exists, it wasn't fireworks or epiphany. Just a feeling, a stubborn thread running through me. Patience. Maybe that first winter, when I stood hours outside a Neukölln bakery by sunrise, waiting for the perfect golden spill of light across flower-freckled windows, I realized how long I could wait. Each shot, a prayer for recognition, an act of endurance. I entered contests, posted to obscure forums, collected rejection emails from galleries. None of it was enough, but I kept going. I found odd jobs, second shootings for weddings, football games, even once a grim-faced corporate event, all for a little money, but more for the hope that someone, somewhere would see. Sometimes, sitting on the curb after a long day, watching Berliners hurrying past, children lifted out of trams, teenagers laughing, the city never pausing, I'd let my failure sink in. Humiliation. That kind of pain can leave a scar, but it also becomes the grit you need. At the office, I grew quieter. Coworkers stopped bothering with invitations. Stefan's remarks dulled to background noise. Years slipped by, marked by the office's recycled air and fluorescent lights, while my heart collided nightly with the world through my lens. Then, during a rainy week in spring, everything limped sideways. One raw-boned morning, barely awake, I opened my email. Buried among junk was a reply from the Steglitz Gallery. They liked my Night Moves series. Could I come in and show more? I stared, blinking, making sure I hadn't misread it. My chest clenched so hard it felt like falling off a bicycle. The same day, Stefan sent me to the archive basement for boxes of ancient paperwork. As he called after me, "Don't forget your camera." I bit hard on my tongue, jittery with a kind of hope I barely trusted. The gallery itself was modest, a converted tobacco shop in Steglitz, all whitewashed brick and spotlights, quiet save for the curator's murmuring. When I presented my work, my voice shook, but Helen, the manager, didn't laugh. Her only question was, why these moments? Why the loners, the night streets? I told her truthfully, because no one looks at them. I want to show how ordinary things can be beautiful if you stop to see them. She nodded, gazing long at a photo of a man sheltering his dog under a scaffold during a summer storm. "That's good," she said. "You have an eye for it. Let's do a solo exhibition." After that, days blurred together, printing, mounting, emailing, losing sleep. I covered my own expenses, working late at the office to afford the gallery fees. Still, doubt gnawed at me, thick as mold in a neglected flat. What if no one came? What if they all dismissed it again? My mother rang, voice wary. "Paul, did you tell anyone? Does your job know?" "Not yet," I admitted. "I'm waiting." She sighed. "Maybe just focus on your work, yeah?" But I remembered the rain streaking neon in Kreuzberg, the faces I'd caught catching their breath in alleys and parks. I couldn't turn back. Opening night arrived in late October. Berlin was cold, steel gray all day, trees ash-limbed along the sidewalks, sky thick with threat. I scrubbed my hands raw before heading out. Nerves pictured an empty room, helmed by only Helen and a bowl of limp crackers. Instead, when I arrived, the space was alive. Strangers pointed at my prints, eyes wide, voices low. There were even a few faint claps. A kindergarten teacher recognized a sunset photograph she'd seen in a blog last year. Someone offered to buy a print. Amidst the small crowd, Stefan's familiar silhouette cut through the front door. His gossip instincts had been piqued. Perhaps someone at the office heard. 2 other coworkers trailed behind, looking awkward. They spotted me. Stefan raised his eyebrows. "So this is where you've been hiding. You told us you were working late." He snorted lightly, then fell silent as he saw the size of the crowd, the drinks, the price list beneath each frame. A local journalist, clipboard in hand, interrupted, asking me about technique. I tried to answer, but my voice kept catching. Behind, Stefan drifted from photo to photo, his expression flickering. This wasn't a party trick, not some quick wedding snapshot. There was something real in the way people lingered, in the red dots marking sales. Later, as I accepted congratulations and a publisher's card, I noticed my coworkers, faces tight, hovering by the door. Stefan finally approached, frowning. "Those are really yours?" he asked, quieter than I'd ever heard him. "You did all this?" I nodded. He looked at me, at the prints, then down, words lost. He shook my hand. It felt forced, as if surprised by its own motion. Frau Becker, in a rare display, sent an office-wide email the next day. Congratulations to Paul on the success of his exhibition. It felt surreal, the shift in temperature, the way familiar faces started treating me differently, even as I carried the same lunch bag and took the same train. In the months that followed, the exhibition paid off. I sold enough to cover the printing and rent, with some left over. A magazine in Hamburg wanted a city series. A small publisher offered a contract for a book. At work, the joke stopped. Some colleagues even asked for headshots. I didn't gloat, didn't throw success in their faces. I just nodded and smiled, feeling the sting of former humiliations soften into the past. When I finally quit, it was with a steady hand and a peace I hadn't known before. Stefan clapped me